What if Africa's biggest solutions are not found in the boardroom or in the dialogue room or conference room? What if they are found in the knowledge of farmers, fishermen, indigenous people, and even youth? Or that researchers that have not been asked your view in this particular challenge? We have thousands of organizations working in development sector. We have NGOs. We have initiative. Yet these communities still retain their problem, which might have one way been resolved in a conference room in the particular solution that addresses it. Now, the conversation or the question needs to shift from who is funding this project or this initiative to what is actually this problem and how do we resolve it. That is one of the biggest questions that Africa needs to ask. What if I tell you that the solution is here? When you think about farmers that have cultivated a particular farm for over 30 years, knowing their rainfall, the soil structure that even government can document. When you think about fishermen who has watched over a particular water or body of water, knowing their ecosystem and the biodiversity in them, that even consultants can even tell. This doesn't mean that traditional knowledge are automatically false scientifically, but it doesn't mean that we must ignore them. The right question we must ask is, why are these methods here? Why are they using it? What do they know? And how can we improve them scientifically? And how can it add value to the field of science into making a better and more strategic innovation in addressing our indigenous challenges? The output of such is not merely papers, it is an innovation, it is a patent, it is an enterprise that other African nations can as well tap in order to address their own challenges. And this brings us to what we know as African integration. We all know when we talk about integration that there is a president and there is a treaties, which is normal. But what we need to discuss more is community to community engagement. We need to look at university to university relationship, founder to founder relationship that can help to unite Africa, not just in addressing a particular solution, but in order to harness the resources that we have. Look at the flood control strategy in Ghana. We look at the data tool that is in Kenya and the community to government strategy or method that are employed in Senegal. Why should they stay only in this country? It is a revenue that other African nations has to tap in order to address their own challenge, and that is when we talk about African integration. But looking at this in this aspect, you discover that Africa already has an agenda. We already have a vision. It's not that the paperwork are not there, but we look at the enforcement and the integration in our normal day-to-day system. As Africans, we must stop measuring development by money. A $10,000 worth of project is not automatically better than a $10,000 worth of project which is led by community. A World Bank owns a project or research on community-driven development, which shows a strategic outcome that giving community the control to be able to harness or design a community-led project does a better delivery to the outcome of that project rather than the participation alone. But the discovery shows that participation alone doesn't make a long-lasting capacity building. And this is what we need to integrate in our African society, that being invited to participate in a conference doesn't really mean that we are making a change. A change comes when the community doesn't just become a beneficiary, but when they are a co-designer of this particular initiative or solution. Here is a very uncomfortable truth. Africa don't need more founders. We need more fishing. We need more finishing. Everybody wants to be a founder. Everybody wants to own an initiative, an NGO. Are they necessary? Yes, they are necessary. But certainly, imagine three or four organizations working together in addressing a particular problem. This creates a more strategic and solvable solution that we can be able to use in addressing this challenge. Imagine five organizations working together in addressing plastic waste in a particular environment, in a particular community. It gives a more real-time solution and practical innovation that helps to address this solution, not just merely addressing it, but getting it from its roots. We don't need five logos, but we need five engagements, whereby the government brings policy, the community brings their knowledge. Research provides the evidence and the data that are needed to be able to create this innovation, whereby we look at the business, which brings about market, and the civil society brings about mobilization, and whereby from there we can be able to address or think about funding, which brings the capacity to be able to unite all this, to be able to make a solvable or a real-time innovation that solves a real-time problem. Through this, I was able to develop what I know as African Community Solution Framework, a six-step strategy to be able to address community to government engagement in addressing African and indigenous challenge. And we look about identification, whereby we identify the problem. The identification must not come from outsiders. It must be identified by those who face these challenges, by community people. They must not be identified by consultants or by governments. It must be told by the community, whereby we look at how to map this project, which is the second step, where we look at what does the community have to offer, what do they have ongoing, what are the steps that they are using to be able to manage this problem, what tools are needed, and what funding capacity are necessary to be able to harness this particular initiative. And that is where we talk about co-design, which is the third step, where we look about the government, the research, and the community engagement, not working single-handedly, but coming together to solve a problem. Not just the work of government, not just the work of a researcher, not just the work of a community, but by their coming together to be able to form or co-design a testable solution that is not just beneficial to the community, but stand to be transient from one generation to another generation in sustaining sustainability in our community. And that brings us to testability. Is this solution, is it testable? What is the evidence behind it? Not just a mere assumption, but where we talk about, does it actually address a real-time solution, a real-time problem? Is it testable to the community? And if the testability, can it as well be applied to another community? Can it be applied to another area? That talks about scalability, which is the fifth. Is this product scalable? Is this innovation scalable? A solution that is proven in a community shouldn't just require another step, another publication. It needs scalability. Most research go on into publication and remain as a publication, but we must look for how to engage industry in such a way that research outputs are being made into industrial solution, formed together to ensure that there is a knowledge transfer, whereby a particular knowledge is not supposed to be enclosed by a border. That Ghana is having a good innovation when it comes to water management or flood management, it doesn't mean that this innovation should be enclosed in the border. African solution must be out of bound when it comes to transfer of intelligence, when it comes to the transfer of innovation. We must tend or to understand that Africa must share their knowledge together, and these steps bring us not just a separate strategy, not just a separate section. It brings about a circle, not a project that has a date, but a project that is continued. When we talk about measurability of a particular innovation, we must stop measuring by how much was raised. We must stop measuring by how many donors we have. We need to start to look at, was the people's life improved? Did the community knowledge make inputs? What are the strategies that we used that was able to earn this result? Did it create job? And most importantly, did it make the lives of the community better? That is the question we need to ask, and that is the measurability we need to use for impacts, not just for money or for the donors or for the partners we got. This discussion is also about who owns the value. Africa has gold, oil, we have cobalt, we have lithium, and we have an abundance of biodiversity, enormous wealth. But the resources alone is never the whole story. We now ask the question, who has the science? Who has the technology? Who has the knowledge to be able to transform this from a resource into a usable product? We export raw material and we import finished products. But when we look at this context, we understand that the finance economy doesn't just retain in Africa. It is not owned by Africa because there is no vast knowledge or leverage in technology and the science and community knowledge we already have to be able to solve our problem, to be able to produce our product. We need to move from extraction to production, from consumption to producing. This needs to be the reality of Africa. And Africa's greatest resource isn't just about the oil, it's not just the lithium, but Africa's biggest resources is intellectual property, is the knowledge, the people that is standing upon Africa. That is the real good. That is the real oil. And when we are able to recognize this and come together and decide that we need to engage this knowledge in able to resolve our problem, Africa becomes functional. Let's not romanticize these parts. There are so many government programs that didn't succeed, community engagement as well that didn't work, and we also have knowledge that were tested and they were false. This we must acknowledge. But we are not just talking about local knowledge instead of science, we are talking about local knowledge plus science and plus government plus research to be able to create a problem that is testable and that can be able to what? Yield action. So maybe Africa doesn't need more logos. We maybe don't need more initiative. But maybe our solution is simpler, not hard, not moving over the board, not asking the question, who founded it, who made it. We should be asking the question, who participated, who decided, who engaged, who made it possible. That is the question we are supposed to ask. And just this question, we look at community that are willing to take action, young people that are willing to act. We look at government that are willing to listen. We look at businesses that are willing to invest. Researchers, and most importantly, that are willing to ask the right question. Africa has the knowledge, the people, the investment, the resources, the researchers that can make it work. The problem or challenge is how do we put these together in able to form a sustainable innovation. It should not be built, and Africa should not be built for Africa. Africa should be built with Africans. Africa should be built by Africans through African knowledge, through African innovation, through African people, and through African idea. And with this, we look at one community, one problem, oneness that are ready to solve a problem, oneness that are willing to take action, and oneness that drives sustainability, a transient sustainability for Africa. And that is when Africa becomes the mother of Earth. When we look at the embodiment of Africa, we discover that Africa needs a renewed change, a renewed innovation, and a renewed mindset to be able to engage with our people, unite together, and be able to solve a problem. I hope that are our organization that are seeing this can be able to make a proper leverage on these ideas, putting these dots together to be able to know that the issue currently in Africa is asking the right question, doing the right thing. And we can be able to do this right thing when we are able to put this piece together to be able to solve Africa's problem. Thank you.